Hey guys, welcome back to Discover Springford. I'm standing in front of Reality Pilates Reformer, located on Main Street in Royersford Borough. Inside, I'll be meeting with 4 different people, including Dianna Ellis and her husband Ken, to discuss the 10-year history of this Pilates studio. I'm Geoff, a local realtor, aspiring actor, and transplant to the Springford area. And I'm on a mission to find the best that Springford has to offer. I'll be interviewing local business owners, civil servants, and other prominent members of the community to find out what makes Springford a great place to live, work, eat, and explore. I invite you to join me on my journey as I discover Springford.
Ken Shepherd, he's my husband, my right-hand person. And Susan is a licensed massage therapist. How long have you been here?
2-3 years. Time flies.
Time flies, yes. And she's worked in energy work for a long time. She worked for a chiropractor for 14 years. And she's constantly taking classes. And Nancy has been with us for
6 months.
6 months. And she's a member here who's also a massage therapist. And she, like a lot of the members here, came because they want to feel better and physical issues. And so that there are more people who are teachers who can't be here right now. And I think the members are just as important as the teachers. Because every member who comes through the door teaches me something. Every single one.
Yeah.
So they're a teacher. And I forget what your second question was.
I was saying, why don't you can tell us a little bit about your personal story of where you grew up and
my personal story.
and also how you got involved with Pilates and then decided to go from someone who practiced to someone who had their own studio.
I was born in West Virginia. And we, in high school, there was no work for the coal mines. We moved to Pottstown. And I went to school and came out to be an elementary school teacher, taught in North Philadelphia, way back in the dark ages. And
did you commute from Pottstown, or you moved to that area?
Married and moved to Chestnut Hill, Willow Grove. And then taught and helped with the development of a class for the mentally gifted in Philadelphia. It's back in the 70s. So it was a pilot program. I love teaching. Yeah. And that's part of why I like being here. Then after that, I was interested in yoga at that time. And it was really a new thing, yoga, in the 60s and 70s. So I loved what it did for both mind and body, but I've always been a plus-size woman. And classes are not very forgiving of plus-size people, really. Yeah. So after teaching, then my mom got sick. We moved back to I moved back to Schwanksville, really, okay. And that's where I live now. And I helped my mom through some issues, and I worked as a waitress because I needed to help my mom. The hours needed to be flexible. Sure. Put a lot of pain in the body. And then I discovered Pilates back in the early days. I guess mid-'80s. Back then, the reformers were hard to find, so I went for training on the main line. And the mainline studios were not very happy to see a plus-size person come through to learn how to do Pilates. So I thought at that time, if I ever get to the place where I want to be, I'll have a Pilates studio, and it'll be welcome to people of all sizes and all ages. Back then, Pilates studios were designed for young athletes.
Yeah.
So
flexibility and
yes.
All that, to get the maximum performance out of people's bodies, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Can you, for someone like me who is not really familiar with everything, and you said the reformers, Is that a term in Pilates, or is that something that you've coined for the studio?
No.
Here? Okay.
It's a piece of equipment.
Okay.
And you can do mat Pilates, and that's done on the floor with the mat. Or you can do Pilates on the reformer or the apparatus.
Oh, okay.
They have a reformer, a tower, a chair, and things like that,
Okay.
where the apparatus really helps you. And I find that Pilates on the reformer was designed as a rehab for professional dancers,
Oh, okay.
so that it's an odd thing. Rehab, which means that it's really good for your joints and rehab, and then for professional dancer, they're athletes. So that's what a reformer is.
Okay.
Then after that, I continued with yoga and continued with Pilates, but I bought a reformer and took it to the house, and then Ken and I started doing the reformer. And then I became a behavior specialist and a counselor. So I worked with, once again, special needs kids and their families with a focus on children who had Asperger's and who had behavior problems and autistic children. And then I burn out.
Yeah.
The insurance won't let you do what you need to do. And I just couldn't take it anymore. And then, so I quit. And I can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
So Ken and I then started, this was during the economic downturn.
Just as the economic downturn started and we started up business.
Yeah.
Like 2007, we started looking and decided to open it. What the hell?
Yeah.
We lived once.
Right.
Let's open a studio.
So
Sure.
July of 2008, we opened the studio.
Wow.
At that point, we had 6 beds, was it?
Six
And two of them-
reformers,
two-
six
four of them were down there, and 2 of them were right where we are here.
Okay.
Now we have 13 beds, 6 different kinds.
Wow.
One of those reformer beds is 25 years old, is it now?
Mhm. Yeah, so,
Get the most out of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, you guys just celebrated your 10-year anniversary,
yeah.
which is amazing, especially given the turnover, as we discussed before we started. Main Street, we're all excited about what the potential that's there, but the fact that you guys started, and I know there are a number of other businesses that have similar stories, the ones that are still here, started at times where you would say, you're crazy, why are you picking now? And you guys are the ones that have kind of been through the whole thing, and hopefully we'll be able to watch as it builds around you, and you guys will be the anchor, the cornerstone, literally, because we're right at the corner here. So that's really cool that you guys have powered through for those 10 years.
It was, back then, the Main Street was like a ghost town.
Sure. Yeah.
Anna Marie's was here. I think the French Quarter Bistro was open, or
Okay.
maybe I'm a little vague on that.
Yeah.
And Main Street, the Main Street Cafe there were 2 other people in there before that. So the businesses that did come, there was a quick turnover.
Right. Yeah. There was no consistency.
Yeah,
So
and there
people
was
could
no
establish a routine of going to the specific businesses.
no
Yeah.
traffic, because we stand up to teach a class and we're looking at the street the whole
Right.
time, and there was hardly any traffic
Wow.
on the main street, and the rent was very affordable.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a driving force.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, for sure. We won't get into what the financial ramifications are now as it grows around you, but
yeah, oh yeah.
I'm sure that's a consideration as well. So Ken, why don't you tell me a little bit about your introduction, as it were, to Pilates and deciding to come on board?
Well, we had, as Diana said, when we got married, we had a bed in the basement, a really good one that she had bought. And she convinced me that I needed to work on it, so I started working with it.
I twisted his arm.
Literally.
And,
That's part of Pilates, isn't it, right?
and discovered that it was really, really good exercise. It wasn't for weight loss,
Yeah.
but it was really good exercise. I found myself in my daily life, being able to make movements that I had not been able to make before.
That's good.
You know,
Flexibility
of all kinds.
Yeah.
So I, with her encouragement, I started learning more and more about, you know, what it was.
Right. That's
and how
great.
it worked. Yeah.
And then what was the conversation like to, obviously, Dianna, you had said that you would quit your job. What was the conversation like of, hey, why don't we do this ourselves?
Yeah.
Because I imagine that is a whole, not to, pull back the, the pillow talk a little bit or whatever, like, those like, you're staring at the ceiling like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do right now?
Pretty much.
But what are we really thinking this crazy idea,
It was pretty much in both financially and emotionally, it was pretty much a leap of faith.
Yeah, I can imagine.
What are we going to do, and how are we going to do it?
Yeah.
And it did work almost immediately. It worked out for us.
Wow.
Almost immediately, it was fulfilling in an emotional
Oh, that's
way,
huge.
But not financially.
Yeah.
We gradually grew.
Yeah,
What we found is that we didn't need to advertise.
that's crazy.
That word of mouth from our members to their friends was our best
Wow.
advertisement. We do now do some advertising and work with Groupon and Living Social
Yeah.
and so forth, but we find that the people who stay with us mostly are the people who brought in their friends.
Right.
Brought in their colleagues from work, who brought in, their people that they did sports with.
Yeah.
The golfers and the tennis players and so forth.
I would imagine it's a pretty tight-knit community of those that practice Pilates, and you're in a very, as we discussed earlier, you're kind of in very compromising positions, and you're very vulnerable to be, people let their guard down, and you really, like as you had said before, you kind of really get tight-knit, like it forces it a little bit in terms of what you're practicing, I would imagine.
Well, people who come here sometimes are really vulnerable. They're in pain, or they've tried other things and it hasn't worked. And so they come here for 45 minutes a couple of times a week. Some people once a week, some people 5 days a week. And the community, the people start to care for one another and they stay. And Royersford is that way anyway. And the people who come here, although we have a few outliers, I think, people who come from further away. Lansdale, we have somebody traveled a couple times a week
My old stomping grounds.
yeah, from Lansdale,
Yeah, that's far.
who drives here, and she's been coming for 8 years to drive that much. So it's if somebody's sick, where are they? What's their address? And it's the people here are very nice. You never feel intimidated. It's one of the reasons we called it Reality.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's a great. Do you want to share a little bit about how you come? Obviously, that's one of the hardest things to do when you're coming up with a business is figure out the name that you like and that will stick. So, are there more stories than just that kind of helped you come up with the name?
The real story of coming up with a name started with a potential lawsuit.
Oh, really?
We were originally, what was it?
Symmetry.
Symmetry, yeah. And a one-person studio down in the main line, down in Exton, threatened to sue us through a lawyer.
Oh, man. That's why we're doing Discover Springford, not Discover Exton. No offense to anybody from Exton that may watch this, but I'm sure you will.
We tried to
We're
talk
not
to her
hoity-toity.
about the name and about, we were different than what she was doing
Right.
and so, but all we heard from was the lawyer.
Yeah.
So we had to cast around to find a name, and at that point, rather than figure out what we wanted to be called, we had to figure out what we were.
Right.
And that's where more than one member came up with Reality.
That's really cool.
We got the name from the members.
That's cool. I like
That's really
that.
cool. Yeah.
I like that you said like we had to figure out who we were. So
Yeah.
I think that in and of itself, I think, is the ultimate marketing tool. for yourself is that, like, if people brand themselves a certain way and then the experience that people have when they walk in the door doesn't match it, those are the businesses that don't succeed. Because people, they go for like the catchy thing or the thing that's like really, out there, and then people walk in and they're like, well, this doesn't fit. Fit. So the fact that you said that you came up with the name based on who you were is huge. I mean, that's.
And then as we grew, we decided that we had been through some of those classes that you need to go through for Pilates teaching and so forth, and we discovered that that's not the kind of Pilates we were doing.
Right.
So we started training our own instructors.
That's cool.
And showing them how we did Pilates.
Yeah. So it's like a specialized, unique experience.
It's a different kind of Pilates.
Yeah.
It's not other Pilates places use the equipment like it's a piece of gym equipment.
Yeah.
So they're going for speed, they're going for strength, they're going for that kind of thing, or extreme flexibility.
Right.
We were looking at it as a functional tool to help people.
Right.
And so it was a different kind of Pilates that we had to train our instructors on.
I have to say, too, that most recently, Susan has really been instrumental in helping us. Philosophy changes along with the membership. And Susan brought with her some tools that were really wonderful in helping to understand how the body moves. And she comes from a really positive place. She sees people in a lot more pain than we do. And her ability to deal with that and further the sense of community here, she has just a wonderful influence over the whole atmosphere when people walk through the door.
That's really cool.
I know.
Yeah, that's
and
awesome.
we kind of found each other. She has her own Serenity Achieved, but when she comes to work here, she is so much a part of the community here. We're going to let her in, even though she's from Phoenixville.
That's all right. Maybe she'll bring a lot of positive energy from Phoenixville. They got enough going on. They need to share the wealth a little bit.
And I moved to Phoenixville before Boone.
That's right. So you're legit.
Phoenixville was looking kind of sad when I moved there.
Well, yeah, it hasn't been that long since it was that way. Everybody forgets how quickly.
7 years ago.
Yeah.
So let's turn gears a little bit. Susan, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and how you came in contact with Dianna and Ken and got involved here?
So I too have an education background. I used to teach preschool and was a nanny.
My wife does, yeah.
Yeah, which I think if you're a teacher, you find a way to keep teaching people, even if you're not an active teacher.
Yeah.
And even my clientele, as a massage therapist, I tend to attract people to me that they want to know, okay, well, how did I get like this? And how do I not do it again? I always have clients that do that. And from talking to other massage therapists, that's kind of not normal.
Right.
Like most people, they just, okay, let me feel good and bye.
Yeah, they just want to tune out.
Yeah, but I tend to get the people that they want to know why they're like that and how they can keep it from happening again, because I do a lot of corrective work. And I got into Pilates I was part of a women's group, like we were kind of networking with each other, and one of the women in the group was a Pilates instructor, and I was having issues with my back and my sacrum, and it was unstable. And she was like, oh, have you tried Pilates? Pilates will fix that. And I'm like, yeah, right.
What kind of voodoo are you talking about?
And so I traded with her for a little while. So, I did private Pilates classes with her, and she got massage from me, and within 3 or 4 weeks, I had some stability where I'd never had it before, and my back pain went away. I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. And then after a couple months of that, her schedule changed because she had a young child at home, and I couldn't see her anymore. And I found Dianna, and I really liked how welcoming it was here. So friendly, and there was like no judgment. Because like most places you go and, if you're not, like perfect little size 8, they're like, get out.
Dare I
You're
say
not one
they
of
were
us.
real? Reality? I'm sorry. That was
you know, and then once Dianna realized I was a massage therapist, she'd start picking my brain, like, oh, what muscle is this, Susan? And
She was sizing you up for employment. No, I'm just kidding.
yeah. And then the massage therapist they had here retired, and Dianna asked if I would take over her clientele here. And I did, and that was a nice kind of feed in, and it, you know, helped my business out. And then Dianna and Ken, they, as I said, they train some teachers, and she's like, you should really come to our teacher meetings, and I think you'd be good at this. And I was like, I don't have time for this. And she's like, but you'd be really, really good at this. You should do it. And, you know, we're going to be going away, and we need some people that know what they're doing, that know the members. And so they talked me into this, into helping them out.
I did.
You know, she kind of guilted me into it, 'cause I really didn't want to. I have a full schedule.
One teacher to another. You should know it's all. You're always passing on the knowledge that you've gleaned and learned. You're trying to find the next student. You know. So
Yeah.
That's what.
Yeah.
So they went away, and I had agreed to teach a few classes, and with my background in massage, so every class I would come in and I'd be like, okay, you know, do you have any issues I need to know about? And, you know, and I would kind of keep everybody in mind, like, okay, this one can't do this one can't do this one needs this. So I approached the class a little differently than the other teachers because of my massage background. And my whole thing is, okay, I don't want to hurt anybody.
Right.
And I want to help as many people as I can, but again, I don't want to hurt anybody. And the members really responded to that. So when Ken and Dianna came back and I'd be in class, they kept bugging me, like, when are you going to teach classes now? So a few months went by, and they talked me into creating 2 classes that are very specific. So instead of just being a general class, I teach classes that are for people in pain.
Okay.
So, you know, I teach a knee class for people that have knee issues, and then a low back class for people with low back issues. And
That's cool. So it's even more specialized than the standard thing that we're doing, which is already specialized, as you said, because it's more, you know, Dianna and Ken's version of Pilates, or the Reality Pilates Reformers version, I should say. Yeah.
People thought that for a while that this was a realty company.
Can I say that I'm guilty
Yes.
of that too? I was
And
like, is that a real estate office? I mean, I see the word realty everywhere because I work in real estate. So.
and then there's an accounting sign
above.
and so people thought we were an accounting office. And then lastly, there was a church. There was a church next door.
Oh, was it?
So people thought for Reformer,
It was a
because of
Reformed
Reality
church.
Pilates Reformer, that we were a church that was reformed. So
We'll clear the air right now. It's a Pilates studio.
Yeah.
I was like, Pilates Reformer Realty. I wonder if they're looking for agents. Right in Royersford.
right here,
That's great.
the church I really liked.
Yeah.
but no guilt.
I do hear a lot of oh gods.
We're having spiritual experiences, but a different kind of.
I'm praying that this is over in a couple of minutes.
I'm sure a lot of oaths are being taken too. It's like, if I can get through this guy, if I can get through this position, I swear. I'm gonna be a faithful member. I'm gonna stick to my exercises. I'm not gonna slack off. I promise. There's a whole other business for you.
Yeah.
All right, wait a minute. That was a great timing to transition to you. So Nancy, as a member, that's now in hindsight, I'm not sure how much of even that story you've heard of the foundation of the
Actually, I
place.
just asked Dianna this morning
Oh,
what
did you?
reality was, why
Like,
she
why
chose
she got-
reality.
yeah.
I'm like, I had no idea that would also be talking about it there. No,
So you're kind of.
I've been here just 6 months, but I actually love the place. It's really helped me with my right hip. I've been having a lot of hip issues. Actually, I don't have as much cartilage in there as I should, but it has really opened up my hip, and it just keeps getting better and better every week I come. It's just amazing. And the instructors are awesome. They're very, they really know, maybe you can't do this as much as other people.
Right.
And, they make sure that I don't push my limit, because then, it's harder to get back then.
Yeah.
So
No.
I
And how did
really
you
love it here.
How did you come across Reality Pilates Reformer?
Well, actually, I saw Dianna at Dr. Benedetti's office, All Health Chiropractic in Royersford, of course.
yeah.
And I saw it, but I didn't really think that it would help me.
Right.
So then Dr. goes, you need to go to Reality Pilates, and he goes, why don't we meet there? So then he came in February.
Oh, that's
we
cool.
both came to the same class a couple times, and he kind of really got me in. He goes, this would really help you. So then I just got inspired and started signing up on my own and just coming.
That's cool. And
Yeah,
now, do
it's
you
great.
live locally?
Yes, I live in
Okay.
Royersford,
Oh, okay.
Chestnut Point.
Oh, nice. So for the layman like myself, I think it would be, I would be remiss to not include some information about Pilates and, kind of how it differs from other practices, and just telling people a little bit about what you actually do here, because I think that would, I'm sure there's a number of people that are going to be watching this that aren't really familiar, or they're, like Nancy when he said you should try it, and you were like, I don't know if that's for me. Like, there's probably a lot of that, I would imagine, a trepidation or hesitancy to get involved.
I think Pilates starts out with an understanding of core.
Yeah.
And so core has to do with anything but the limbs.
Right. Yeah.
Is what you use your limbs to strengthen your core. And then I think it really divides sharply after that. There's mat Pilates. There is Pilates on the Reformer, or apparatus.
Okay.
And then there are all kinds of philosophies that exist within the Pilates community. But I think a thing for people who do apparatus is movement is medicine.
Okay.
So that you use your joints in a way that helps strengthen and stabilize your core and your joints. And it's about muscle memory, and it's about neuroplasticity. So much is involved. So when you say Pilates, it now has evolved.
Right.
We have a woman who is a physical therapist from California who's coming in to study Pilates as her method of providing physical therapy, because you can't just treat a foot.
Right.
And what's interesting about that is that's the way Pilates started.
Yeah.
Pilates started in the late 30s, early 40s. It's very old, as a physical therapy.
Oh, okay.
And now it's going right back to a lot of people being there. And she believes that you have to look at the whole body and see how functional your movements are. And even with a recent injury or a problem, and let's see what we need to do on the Reformer or with Pilates or other apparatus to help correct that as best we can, so you don't keep re-injuring yourself.
As someone who started 6 months ago,
Yes.
as we've been talking about the effects and all that stuff, have you personally noticed a difference from 6 months ago to where you are now
Definitely.
in terms of your
Well,
hip and your strength overall?
In the class, Dianna has this. I think it's in. Isn't it in the straps? In the straps, she had me go like this. Well, the first class, I was like, I'm like, I don't think I can do that. But the very second class,
Really? In one class? That's
yeah,
incredible.
it was amazing.
Yeah.
And it just has gotten so much better ever since.
Oh,
I
that's
just
incredible.
really.
A lot of the people who report back to me tell me that they find that they feel they'll be doing something in their ordinary life. They'll reach down, they'll bend down, they'll reach up, do something different, something in their ordinary life, and find themselves doing it better, or doing it without pain,
Right.
or doing it quickly, that they didn't do before. So it shows up in their everyday life. It shows up in
It's
your
very
everyday
practical.
movement.
Yeah, that's great.
And-
Because
I do ballroom dancing, and people at the ballroom have noticed that I don't limp as much as I used to.
Oh, that's
I mean, it's still a little bit there, but they go, wow, we can actually see you doing so much better when you're dancing, and I have so much less pain recently. It's just amazing how it has made me feel like, wow, I can really do this and not have the pain in it that I've always felt.
Yeah.
And walking up the steps, I can actually walk up steps and not have to limp up the steps like I used to. They're just perfect.
That's great.
Like I said, people find the results in their everyday life and in their everyday things, walking up steps.
Well, when you're in a lot of pain, the muscles have that memory long after the pain is gone.
Right.
So the muscles say, protect the hip, tighten up, protect the hip. And after a class, sometimes you do, because it's non-weight bearing and it's from the joints, you're able to move, like Nancy moving her legs like this, At first, her muscles say, no, tighten up, and everything goes like this. But after a few repetitions, they saw that it was not going to hurt the hip.
Yeah.
And then,
Safe.
so you now have a new muscle memory. I can do this. And for some people, it is that dramatic. It's the second class. All of a sudden, like the muscles have agreed that I'm going to have. It's like people playing the piano. After a while, your fingers just know from muscle memory where to go.
Right.
Here, you're learning to move a leg with a new muscle memory.
That's really cool. Is that why they call it the reformer? Because you're actually reforming
Maybe.
what the
I never
what
thought
the muscles
about it.
Oh, good. I was
Yeah.
like, this is probably going to sound so stupid, and they're like, yeah, duh. I thought the response was going to be, oh, good.
no.
I'm contributing something to
No, maybe we haven't. Maybe we just better start a church.
this. Well, I was thinking,
Amen.
the whole time you were talking about it, I'm thinking, like, so it's like rebooting the muscle memory,
Yeah,
exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
And then I was like, well, rebooting, reforming. Oh, okay. It makes sense. So,
Starting
Yeah.
anew.
yeah, right. That's
Yeah.
great. I mean, it's almost like, it's what your muscles have needed, and they just haven't had the permission to go back to neutral or go back to center. They just haven't. The brain has to tell them to do that, and to focus and center yourself on these exercises seems to really have that benefit.
Yeah,
Yes,
just like the
very much
compensation
so.
patterns.
Yeah.
Like, we learn to compensate by, if I do this, it hurts. So if I tighten this up, then I can do this. And, the joint stays safe. So, and then once there's an ability, you then have to retrain. Like, okay, it's safe to move in a normal, healthy way. But maybe weight bearing, you can't do that. And then you do it without the weight, and your body then learns.
That's really cool. So I've learned a lot about what you guys do here. I've learned that not only is it not a real estate office, it's not a church, and I've learned a lot about Pilates from people who obviously love to teach it. I can just feel it. I mean, just being in here, I'm glad that we ended up doing, the four of you, because I'm feeling it from different perspectives, from people who have been in it forever, people who are coming to it new, people who are teaching, people who are, it's just really cool. So thank you for including everybody, because it was really beneficial to me to really get the sense of what you guys are doing here, the sense of community, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
We've been throwing that word around a lot.
Yeah.
So the best way for people to reach out to you would be through the Facebook page, or do you have a...
They can call.
Okay.
The numbers
Numbers on the
listed.
website.
Yep.
And we'll have all that information below the video when we and on our website for people
Okay.
to contact you if anything in the episode spoke to them and made them want to come out. Make sure you mention that you heard about Reality Pilates Reformer on Discover Springford, and let Dianna and Ken and the folks here know that that's what brought you in. And Dianna, Ken, Susan, Nancy, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
hope you got as much enjoyment out of this conversation as I did, because I certainly did.
I did.
And
Yep.
thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Well, that's all the time we have for today on Discover Springford. I want to thank you for watching, and I want to thank Dianna, Ken, Susan, and Nancy for giving me their time today. Please visit the links below the video to check out Reality Pilates Reformer for yourself. I wish them another 10 successful years right here in Royersford Borough. If you like Discover Springford and want to support the work that we're doing, you can do that in one of three ways. You can make a one-time contribution through PayPal by visiting paypal.me/discoverspringford. If you'd like to be a monthly supporter, you can start out with as little as $1 by visiting patreon.com/discoverspringford. You can also buy one of our t-shirts at our website by visiting discoverspringford.com. Thanks a lot for watching, and we will see you next time. But until then, get out there and discover what makes the Springford area a great place to live, work, eat, and explore.